Piers Morgan apologises to tennis star Novak Djokovic for previously criticising him for not getting the COVID-19.
Wow.
Piers doesn't know where he sits. He flip-flops more than a fish out of water. Piers does not know. He's on the wrong side every time, and then he flips. Every time.
Okay. So, but hang on. Let me dive into that a little bit because that's interesting. Does he flip-flop or does he flip? Because those are actually two very different things. Watching someone go back and forth is a very different thing to watching someone admit that they've changed their mind.
No, I think he flips-flops on a few things because you think he's turned a corner and then he comes out with something stupid.
On a different issue, though?
Yeah, maybe.
Because
that's what you're saying.
He's got a worldview and then he's realising that individual issues are wrong, but he hasn't yet realised that the reason he keeps being wrong on the issues is because the worldview through which he views it
so
is
maybe
wrong
he
to
flips.
start with.
Yeah, you make a good point.
Yeah, I would consider him to be a flipper, not a flip-flopper.
Because I can't point to how many times he's been on the wrong side of history and then he comes out going, oh.
But how many people admit it? How many people come out and go, not many.
Got to give him that.
Not many. Like you got to give.
Should we watch this quickly?
Yeah, sure.
Let's see what he says.
I'm going to start by making an apology.
Before I go in, this takes an incredible amount of humility to admit that you're wrong.
Yeah,
so I will absolutely give him that.
This is why I wanted to dive into that a little bit because I actually think there's more substance here.
Yeah. Okay. Can I make it bigger?
Yep.
Yeah. Let's do that.
I was very censorious about you over the COVID scandal that you got caught up in. And in a nutshell, you got thrown out of Australia over what seemed to be on the face of it, from what the media were being told and what was being reported, was you trying to bend the rules of getting into playing the Australian Open without having taken the COVID vaccine. And I was actually quite censorious about a lot of people at the time. And I've since apologized to some people for being too tough on them, because once it became clear that if you had the vaccine, it made no difference to whether you could then transmit the virus, clearly at that point for me, it becomes a personal choice. If the potential danger is irrelevant compared to whether you have the jab or not. And so I have, on that basis, said, look, I believe the vaccines were important. I think they saved a lot of lives. I had lots of people in my life at the time who were going through a terrible time with COVID. One of my co-workers on the morning show I was doing, her husband was in a coma from COVID. He sadly died. A friend of mine said goodbye to her mother on FaceTime, who was in a care home and died from COVID, and so on. I knew lots of people. So it felt quite personal. It felt quite visceral to me, but I was too censorious. And when more information emerged about your situation, the fact you'd had COVID several weeks before you went to Australia, the fact that you hadn't actually done anything wrong on the form filling, the fact that in the end it became a political decision to throw you out based on likely public anger if they didn't take action. When I look back on that and reflect on that, I would like to say I'm sorry for the intemperate language I used against you. Because I didn't know you. I took what I was reading and hearing at face value. It turned out to be more complicated.
Big mistake.
And yeah, I'm sorry for over-egging the rhetorical souffle.
I appreciate that very much.
Let me get that off my chest.
Honesty, thank you so much. It was difficult times and state of emergency globally. I understand. We've been through hell globally, all of us on this planet, and the only thing I would add, not to really dig deeper into this whole situation on the COVID and vaccination, is that I was never a proponent of anti-vax or pro-vax. I was always freedom of choice. Mm-hmm. So and that was misinterpreted. I was.
Class act.
I was going to say the exact. Hang on, stay on that shot. I was going to say the exact same words, but I cannot get over the fact that the sequence of lights on the two sides of the background are mismatched.
Yes, that was bothering me too. I'm glad you saw that.
Yeah, no, guys.
I thought I was being pedantic.
Get your set design consistent. I mean, oh gosh. Sorry. No, he's always been a class act. He was classy all the way through that, actually. He showed an astonishing amount of grace. He's got access to the internet. He could have been saying and doing any one of all kinds of different things on the internet at any given moment in time. How many people have we seen have a rush of blood to their head under far less duress than what he was placed under? His number one status was under threat. He
Yep.
was shoved into a quarantine hotel instead of in the hotel that he'd booked and paid for with his team preparing for the
Yep.
Open, all of that stuff. The humiliation, the things that were said about him by
Remember
Piers
the
Morgan, among others.
two Channel 7 reporters who got caught on the hot mic with Rebecca Madden and the other guy?
I do. I
They
don't
were calling him
remember
an
what they said.
arsehole.
Yeah. He's shown incredible grace all the way through that, and I think he won a lot of hearts with that. But again, I mean, this is that guilty until proven innocent thing. This person hasn't done the thing that we're all sure that he should do, and so we're going to crucify him. How many people have been lynched over the years or executed over the thousands of years of sort of the history of government and civilization over just a momentary outrage that people would later reflect on and go, hang on.
I was going to say this before when it came to the rape thing, but it felt like the wrong story to sort of make this point. But as someone who was falsely accused of something, it doesn't matter what I do. People will still think I'm some kind of con woman. It doesn't like the story will never go.
There's still people convinced that Amber Heard was the victim.
Yeah. And there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can say. That is set in concrete for these people. And it's a stigma. And, we're so far beyond it now that people don't care until it pops up.
What's interesting to me is that there's a mindset shift that I managed to achieve before COVID, actually, but it was definitely cemented during COVID. Once somebody's opinion is set in stone, they are no longer relevant.
Yeah.
They cease to be relevant.
Well, it's a sign of low intelligence because the true sign of wisdom is the ability to change your mind.
Sure, and the ability to entertain ideas without agreeing with them is a very important indicator of intelligence. But also, if I'm in the business of trying to make the world a better place through the battle of ideas, the contest of ideas. That means the only people that I'm actually really focusing on and paying attention to are the people that might be willing to change their ideas.
Yeah.
The people who are locked in to hate me, and by the way, the people who are locked in to love me, actually they kind of fade.
Yeah.
Neither of those groups is actually relevant in terms of my mission, in terms of the work that I'm trying to do and the difference that I'm trying to make. I'm only focused on the people that can change their minds. And so when I get attacked by somebody, one of the things that I'm looking for in that comment is this a good faith criticism of me from someone who's capable of changing their minds?
Yeah.
Because if it is, I might engage.
Yeah.
Or is this just an ad hominem attack? Is this just someone venting who is incapable or unwilling? Their opinion is set in stone. And I might still respond, but at that point, I'm not responding for their sake. I'm responding for the sake of anyone else who might come across that. But that person has faded.
Yeah.
They don't actually count anymore.
I've noticed this a lot. How do I say this? Sounds really weird. But when you're someone that has something to offer people, you do get a lot of people around you, right? Like you get some hanger-oners. And I definitely had that in my clothing company. And even now, it's so weird when people come up to you and they want a selfie with you. Because do you know what I mean? I'll never get used to that.
So you're framing that in the sense of people who want something from you. I frame that very differently.
No, I didn't mean that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm saying two different things at the same time. So
sorry, yeah.
you'll have people who want to be in your orbit for a couple of reasons. Like, for example, I'll use my old example. With my clothing company, I had access to all the best athletes. I had clothing that I often gave away for free.
Yeah.
I would pay for people to travel with me because I didn't want to go on my own, all that sort of stuff. And, I got something, they got something. But when I felt like my boundaries were crossed or when people were taking advantage or maybe they were hanging on for the wrong reasons, I would, to be fair, in fair criticism of me is I'm unceremonious with that.
Yeah.
Boom, done.
Yeah, done. Yeah.
Cut. There is no forgiveness there. It's just like, see you later, bye. And that can be jarring. And then that person then becomes my biggest hater overnight. And I dare say most of those people are on Tattle Life. Anyway, what I notice about this is as soon as you are no longer feeding those people, they then turn around and say all the stuff that you didn't give them. So every good deed you did up until that point becomes irrelevant. And it's the one thing that you didn't do or you did do or whatever.
The time you said no.
And so when it comes to stuff like this, people want to paint you as a villain. I feel like that's we're predetermining people to be the villain until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like Novak and stuff like that, can you imagine how much hate he has copped whenever he does the Australian Open from the crowd and things like Australians have been So awful to that man.
Well, funnily enough, was it 2 years ago he got a standing ovation, or he got like a massive cheer when he came in? It's I think Melburnians by and large actually have softened on him a great deal.
Did he get a standing? Is that a thing?
I'm pretty
I
sure.
don't remember
I'm pretty sure
that.
Novak Djokovic. Just Google it. I'm pretty sure that when I think it was the next time he came out in the Australian Open, after the one that he was barred from.
Yeah.
He got an enormous round of applause.
I thought he got booed.
Are there going to be people there booing? Sure. I mean, how many times have you seen the headlines?
You're right. No, you heard. A standing
I'm always
ovation
right, Carly.
from the Serbian crowd, though.
Okay, sure.
Here we go,
There's a
hang on.
decent amount of them.
Well, like a true masochist, you are back again to watch another segment of the Oddcast. So at this point, you should probably be subscribing and telling every single person in your life about the Oddcast, because let's be honest, we've got a lot of work to do and we need to get together and suffer through this torture, because there's nothing like fighting against our government with some good mates by your side. So much like a Bunnings sausage, we are going to become a staple in your life, and we would very much appreciate that you go and support us via the buy us a coffee button or buy some sweet merch. Also very appreciated. And join us next week. We'd appreciate it.